Perla, how did you come up with the concept as far as what your clients wanted in this space?
Okay, well, the architecture dictates, okay,
Right.
because you have this huge space, like I said before, oversized room and high ceilings. So it's not like you can just come in and place your furniture. You got to design it, you got to plan it.
Right.
What we did here, which I think really made the room, this is the heart of the room, is the area rug. If you notice, this area rug is a mirror image of your soffit,
Right.
which carries the whole length of the room. By doing that, we've created an island sitting area
Right.
around the fireplace, which is your drama, okay? But then, not forgetting the best asset of this house, which is the view, the water view.
Yes,
We
beautiful.
also create an additional sitting area
Right.
as part of the same one, looking out. So, you know, it's about balance, it's about proportion, and then also a scheme. If you notice the color scheme.
Now, did your clients show you pictures of what they liked, or did you kind of get a sense? Like, how did you even come up with this type of fabric for them?
Okay, they told me they like Mediterranean because that's what the home is, the style of the architecture, and they say they like neutral colors. Well, they got it.
Right.
We took because, you know, the floor is going to dictate your color scheme. You have the goldens and the earth tones. So you want to blend, you know, you want to just take what's already there and blend it, and not so much color, but texture. And if you notice, every texture and every fabric is very unique, but yet it blends.
Now, when you were working with them, from the beginning to the end, you know, a lot of people want to know how long does the process usually take. Mm-hmm. So from when you met them, I guess they had already owned the house, how long did that whole process take for them?
Between us coming up with the design and the selections and everything, and getting it into the house, installing it, and putting the last little accessories, it took about 7 to 8 months.
We're now in the dining room, and one thing I think people at home maybe don't sometimes get is that interior design is not just about buying the furniture. There's a lot of accents and accessories, I think, that really turn the home into a showplace. So, Perla, let's talk about a little of that.
Well, I believe, okay, and very firmly, that the accessories are the icing on the cake.
Right.
Okay? Yes, you can have beautiful furniture, but unless you accessorize it, it's not going to really show as nice as when you do. For instance, here's a dining room table where you could have had just a typical glass top, but in this case, if you notice, we detail the glass itself. So it has a carved border. The accessories on the table is bringing the table higher up. It's giving it more of an importance for such a high space like
Right.
we have here with a beautiful floral. I mean, you know, every little piece that you choose that's going to sit on the furniture is going to enhance the furniture and it's going to bring it to the next level.
Perla, when you're working with your clients, obviously they make their furniture selections, you show them fabric for the window treatments, they pick up the chairs. When you get to the accessories, I mean, there's so many pieces. How do you and your client work to arrive at what they're selecting, or do they just say, go do it?
Well, by that point,
They trust you.
Yeah, they've seen how gorgeous everything looks, so they figure the icing on the cake, let her just finish baking it, you know what I'm saying?
Of course.
So
of course.
normally what we do is, it's very hard for somebody to come to a store and look at an accessory and try to visualize it in the space. So I make it easy for my clients. I will come in a truck, well, not me in the truck, I don't
Right.
drive the truck, I follow the truck.
Right, right.
We will come to the house,
Yes.
and we will set the pieces in place
Okay.
before they're home. And then they come home and they walk around and see everything in place, and then they'll say, yay, yay, nay, nay, you know?
Okay.
Because it's not the same looking at a piece in the store and then looking at it in the actual space where it really belongs.
Now, let's talk money for a second.
Sure.
Usually come up with a certain budget based on the size of the home, the level of detail they want.
Absolutely.
What percentage of the budget is usually attributed toward accessories?
Well, to accessories. Okay.
Or the detail that kind of brings it all together?
It just depends on the person, because
Right.
a lot of people like a lot of accessories, okay? Like, you know how you have ladies wearing a lot of jewelry?
Right.
And they have ladies that just like one simple piece. It just depends, you know? It depends on how much of it you want. But I would say about 5% of the total budget at least should be a good accessory.
And I would imagine that, you know, you can buy a piece that's very expensive,
Right.
or sometimes you can allocate more money over a few pieces, just depending on their taste and what they like.
Sure.
Oh, that's interesting.
Sure.
That's very interesting.
There's also people that have a lot of their own accessories that you need to incorporate. For instance, there's people that have collections.
Yes.
They may have a collection of a Swarovski or an Armani that mean a lot to them. My job is to incorporate that in such a way so that it really shows how nice.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up. Let me answer this question then. They always say that the interior designer should not pick someone's art.
Okay.
What do you do in the case when the art really does not work with the house?
Okay.
Do you have that situation, I would think?
A lot.
What happens in this house, it's all beige and neutral,
Sure.
and they have a piece of art that's fabulous, but it's red, blue, and very strong colors.
Absolutely. I would take that piece and put it in a place where it's not clashing with anything. You know,
Okay.
like find a special hallway for it or a special spot where it's not next to
Right.
something like, you know what I'm saying?
But, well, does art have to kind of go with the house or not really?
Art does not have to match the decor, okay? Art is personal, okay?
Correct.
But the way you're going to frame it and where you're going to hang it and how you're going to use it is important. I mean, I
Right.
wouldn't take a Peter Max and put it in the Mediterranean setting on top of the sun.
Correct, because it wouldn't,
Right,
wouldn't
you
go.
got to find the right spot for it, the right frame for it, and you got to make sense of it, and that's where we come in.
Okay, well, that's good. I think that's actually a great point. Why don't we go into the family room, just kind of see how you set up the kitchen flowing into the family room. Okay, great.
Well, here's a perfect example. I was talking about collections. In this case, they have an
Right.
Armani collection. And what we did is we created a wall unit, which is an entertainment center, and at the same
Right.
time, it holds their collection displayed.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous. And, you know, we were just talking, and if you kind of look at the way Perla has created the kitchen and the family room, I mean, clearly in a lot of the newer houses, you're seeing, you know, an openness of the family room to the kitchen. But I think one thing that kind of brings home what we tried to talk about before is, especially with people thinking they can do it themselves, years ago when someone would try to do it themselves, the kitchen and the family room would be exactly the same, to the point where the cabinets would continue
Right,
all the way
like it
to the
has
wall.
match, okay?
Right.
I don't particularly agree with that. I think it should tie together somehow, but each room should have its own personality. And
Right.
not only that, well, you're dealing with woods, which is a natural material.
Right.
Okay? I like blending woods, okay? I mean, after all the trees in the forest don't match.
Right.
Okay? So you don't need to match your woods. That's something that you got to remember.
Yeah, I think people don't truly understand that, you know, if you're sick, you go to an expert, you go to a doctor. If you have legal issues, you go to a lawyer. And I do not understand why there's, and clearly this is not the majority of people, but there is a percentage of people that try to think that they can kind of pull it together. And it ends up being that it's so neutral and so beige and so bland that they don't really put life into it. And I think what you've done here, even when, you know, you look at the kitchen, you clearly could have just done, I don't know the type of wood that's there, but you could have done one type of wood and maybe you did a nice little molding, but you really took it to the next level and you did nice detail around it. You used two different woods, you did the glass, you made it open so there was great transition.
Correct, because
So,
you know, you don't want to block the view. You want to be able to stand in the kitchen and feel that the room continues to the end and look at the water view, of course.
Right.
But still give them an area for more display and give it dimension, give it depth. You
Well,
know, it's
give it-
not just a flat cabinet.
It's also give it personality. Perla, what I want to understand is what was your vision of this kitchen as it related to the family room? Because the family room, kitchen, breakfast area, it's a nice size for a house of this square footage. It's not excessively large. So how did you put it together in your mind?
Oh, two things that are very important. Okay, definitely the decor, but also the practicality. This is a gourmet kitchen. We have state-of-the-art appliances with the stainless steel finishes, which to me is like jewelry.
Right,
okay?
right.
So you tie it together with your hardware and of course with your two-tone rich woods, which looks like pieces of furniture.
Right.
Okay. Also, very important, I feel, is the backsplash.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, you could definitely do granite all out, but why not get creative and make a piece of art out of it? In this case, we did with different marbles.
It's it's
And
it's
again,
excellent.
cooking, you're looking at a piece of art, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, look,
Make it interesting.
look, everything's about having fun.
Right.
And you know, I think design, and I can see, you know, I keep commenting on, but your personality is infectious, and I think
Thanks.
I can see why people enjoy working with you because, you know, everyone wants to have fun.
You gotta have fun. You gotta
And if you can enjoy the process, and I've seen, you know, I've done my own house with a designer, and it's a very detailed, involved process. So if you can kind of have fun with it
Yes.
and be organized, because clearly you
Absolutely.
need to have
gotta
both,
balance it, yes.
then it really comes together. And I think you've really done a fabulous job in this
Thank
house.
you.
I think as we go to the, you know, the final segment, I want to really pull it all together, and I want you to explain to everybody at home what is the actual process from beginning to end, how you execute.
Okay.
And so when we come back, let's talk about that.
Great.
So we'll be right back with Real Estate Today.